Dear audience, welcome to the show POWERchat. This is the 141st episode of POWERchat, the show at your doorstep since 2016, discussing development, education, and diplomacy. Through this special episode today, we are discussing on media and journalism education in South Asia, with particular focus on challenges and opportunities for future journalists and communicators. Joining us today, three special guests. Professor Krishna Regmee, a noted media educator and senior journalist from Nepal. Dr. Jude Genilo, head of the Department of Media Studies and Journalism at the University of Liberal Arts in Bangladesh. He's joining us from Dhaka. And we're also joined today by Dr. Preeti Raghunath, assistant professor and a researcher. She's teaching at Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication, Symbiosis International University, Pune in India. Please allow me to welcome them. Welcome to the show, distinguished guest. Welcome to the show, Professor Regmee.
Thank you, Laxman ji.
And Dr. Jude Genilo, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
And Dr. Preeti Raghunath, we also welcome in the show.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. So today, through this special episode, we are discussing about the state of journalism and media education in South Asia. From your respective countries, I'm requesting you to share with your situation, that of the journalism and media education. I'm starting from Professor Krishna Regmee. He joined us today from Kathmandu. And we are live from the TV Today studio in Kathmandu. You can also watch us on our Facebook page. Professor Regmee, how do you evaluate the state of journalism and media education in Nepal, and how do you compare the courses and journalism education practices that of the other countries in South Asia? Professor Regmee?
Nepal is pursuing course of study for mass communication, media studies, and other dimensions of communication in various fields, in colleges and universities. Compared to other countries, we are actually concentrating more on print and the electronic media than on online. Okay, but with the change in technology and with the change of modern times, we have also emphasized online teaching, and this particular COVID-19 times have actually started, impacting media education in different ways. We are following a track, over the last few years, but now with COVID-19 it has actually impacted the society and therefore the media education. The media educators and media educating institutions and the students also, because it has impacted various dimensions of society, economy, culture. So the changes that we are facing, you mentioned the challenges, that there are tremendous challenges we are facing right now. Okay, now media education will have to respond to it. Okay, media education can't actually run in the way we were actually imparting media education in the traditional way. We have to actually take these changes into consideration and bring about changes in teaching learning atmosphere in one hand, curriculum on the other, evaluation on the other. So this COVID-19 times has given some sort of, wake-up call for change in media education as a whole, especially the media literacy. And the vision of media education also, we have to enter into it also. There was one type of vision in the past, but today the vision should be slightly different. It should be, because the informed citizenry is not the only mission of media education. Today the citizens are media users. Citizens should be media literate also, because they are the producers of the media content. They are the users of the media contents also. So the whole media ecology has undergone change. So Nepal's mass media education also should respond to this change.
Well, thank you, Professor Regmee. I will come back to you on the challenges of journalism education. I'm going with Dr. Jude William Genilo. He's joining us from Dhaka. He's the head of Media Studies and Journalism Department of a university in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Dr. Jude, how do you see the state of journalism and media education in Bangladesh, and any reflection that of the South Asia?
Yeah, I did a study. I co-authored a study with DW Academy regarding journalism education in Bangladesh, and this was published last year. Now, one of the findings of this study shows that there is a disconnect between what is taught at the universities and what skills are being demanded by the media industry. Like now, what they told us during the when we did the study is that they're looking for graduates who can do live reporting, fact checking and verification, search engine optimization, mobile journalism, and these are new skills that are actually not taught in many of the universities. Now, the difficulty here is that when university started offering journalism studies, they were in the paradigm of being more theoretical, being more like an ivory tower, and that's why practical learning was not really ingrained in university education in journalism early on. And that's why most of the universities, they would be teaching journalism at a theoretical level. But this is starting to change. Like if I notice the past 3 years, there were efforts by a few universities to start establishing their media labs, start establishing computer labs, start establishing their own studios in their own universities. And we can see this. And also, there's this effort towards internship. And that's why there has been some change recently regarding because the practical element was not there. Now, in my university, we did not have any crisis of identity like this because when we were established, the founders of our university said, you have to produce graduates who would fit industry, that industry needs. And that's why from the very beginning, we already have these labs and we have all these curricular programs because for us, to be a good journalist, you have to keep practicing your field. And that's why early on we established our own radio station, TV station. We have our film apprenticeship program. We have even our PR apprenticeship program. So these have to go hand in hand. What you teach in the classroom and what they do in co-curricular activities, and also the link between the university and the industry should be very strong because you have to keep going back to them. You have to revise your curriculum at least every 4 years to be able to keep updated because the industry, journalism, the changes are really fast. And that's why you could not actually rest and say, okay, my curriculum worked 4 years ago, it will work now. It's not the case. So you have to keep on changing. So
Well,
these are the two
thank you.
things.
I'm
There is
interrupting you,
still the
Dr.
disconnect.
Genilo. You said that there are a lot of practical tasks that media journalism students need to carry out. How are you coping with the environment now? You know, the pandemic, COVID-19, almost all academic institutions are closed. How are you coping with this environment, reaching out to the students that of the practical knowledge? Very quickly.
Okay. Yeah, because in March, the middle of March, the government closed down all schools from primary to university education. And they told us we have to go online. So we are now going fully online. But what is so nice or the opportunity about going online is that there are so many resources that you can find online. So we do our classes online. We have our own learning management system, But what's more important to me is that we can also do our co-curricular activities online. So the relationship between the teacher and the student should continue, and that's why we have all these online socialization events. So last week we even held an online art exhibition. We held online film exhibition. So we have all these online activity. Even the Eid, we celebrated online with our students. So these are the things we can use to be able to cope. Also, with regards to the lab, because in the past we do lab on campus, but now there's so many resources online. There's so many mobile apps online where students can do editing, camera work, etc. So, but yes, that's the point is we have to relearn, okay, because this is a new platform and we have to learn what is there available online. So it's a adjustment period, but I think it's bringing us more opportunities as well because we're learning more.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jude. I'm going with Dr. Preeti Raghunath. She's joining us from Pune. She's the assistant professor at Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communications. Dr. Preeti Raghunath, how do you evaluate the state of journalism and media education in India? You have been teaching to many academic institutions and now in Pune. You are also traveling to South Asian countries. How do you compare journalism and media education in India and rest of the South Asian countries? Dr. Raghunath.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me over. I would like to say that, very recently there was an article and it was popular that in India, journalism education has actually completed 100 years. So it's a long history of journalism, teaching and research that we are talking about in the country. And it started off with Annie Besant setting up the institute as part of the Theosophical Society in Adyar in Chennai. And today we are seeing the proliferation of the digital realm in India in a big way. If you see, journalism education has been caught between the dichotomy of providing academic training as a theoretical subject versus catering to industry demands. And in India, the industry is huge. The entertainment industry is huge. The journalism industry is huge. And now the corporate space is huge. So we have courses, we have the proliferation of various institutions in India. A number of private institutions have come up. Vis-a-vis, we have university departments in the country which provide teaching and training to cater to the social sciences and humanities demand of communication as a discipline. So this is the dichotomy that media education in the country is grappling with actually, and this has been the case for a while now. And what we see now is the shift from just journalism or corporate communication or film studies or communication management to the discipline of communication. I think that shift has happened slowly but steadily. The discipline of communication is gaining a lot of importance in the country, and we see that's number one. Number two is we see the proliferation, we see the continued proliferation of private enterprises and institutions that teach media and journalism. And I teach at a deemed university, which has very strong industry linkages. SIMC has very, very strong industry linkages. We have a lot of our alumni working in communication management spaces, and therefore that's a huge influence on the education that we provide at SIMC. But at my alma mater at the University of Hyderabad, the orientation has been more research based, and training and media studies and communication studies as a sub-discipline of the field of communication has been gaining a lot of importance. So while we see growing privatization, while we see the need to cater to demands of the industry, we are also seeing growing interest in communication as a discipline, as a theoretical discipline, as a discipline that engages with more deeply with issues of society and humanity. That is the second point. The third point I would like to try and make is the growing digital realm. People who've spoken before me just now have emphasized on the digital realm, and India is no exception. um, the growing digitization and datafication of South Asia and India has meant that journalism education and media education has had to catch up. And it is always the case that education institutions are a couple of steps behind what industry does in its everyday. And therefore, it's very, very important to constantly have a good industry interface, and more so in the journalism space. We see a lot of our alumni going into digital analytics and digital marketing realms. That is the hot thing right now. We see a lot of our alumni going into branding spaces, digital branding, digital marketing. I think this is the realm that's catching up in a big way, besides traditional journalism jobs. So it is very, very important that we stay up to date with the journalism curriculum that is tuned into the digital, and more so during pandemic times. I think South Asia as a whole has a rich, our university departments are structured in ways that are more bureaucratic, that are more uh, I mean, difficult to change. They are more set in stone. They are more traditional, and it's time that we embrace dynamism in the university departments. While the industry and the private sector that offers journalism education in the private realm has been able to do that quicker, it is important that journalism departments come out of their traditional mindset to embrace industry orientation. That's number one. But also newer research and newer teaching methods, newer pedagogical interventions. This is something that we need to do.
Well, Dr. Raghunath, how are you reaching out to your students at the time of pandemic?
Well, what I'm teaching currently is a research methods course, and therefore, it's research methods works very well when you're able to interact with your students directly face to face, because you can give them small examples through live research projects, or you can teach them certain research methods and methodologies in class. But what has happened is that the pandemic has limited that opportunity. However, we are making use of this opportunity to advance a course and teach the course through digital interactive methods. We are teaching the students through asynchronous methods by recording videos and sending them across, and also mentoring them via Skype and via phone. They have a live research paper to work on besides alongside the research methods course. So they are applying all their learnings into putting together a research paper each. And therefore, we are mentoring them on various topics and aspects related to research in media and communication. And that's how we are dealing with the pandemic. The pandemic, while it's a humanitarian situation, it has also provided us the opportunity to fast forward and go a few steps ahead in terms of delivering media education.
Well, thank you, Raghunath, and thank you very much, all of you, for your opening remarks. You touched upon so many issues, and we'll try to discuss them. I'm going with Professor Regmee. Professor Regmee, do courses offered at the university location here in Nepal justify industry demands and address branches of the journalistic professions? Now, journalists are not confined to a profession of reporting. There are many, disciplines that media students in future can join with. How do you see or evaluate the, criticism that from the market that sometimes the university courses are not up to the media market or what media industry is demanding here in Nepal? How do you see this?
That's a very good question. And we have actually tried to answer the question also. There is a gap between the classroom and the production room or the newsroom, okay, or the industry demand. There is a gap. We understand that gap and we are trying to respond to it. The problem in responding to the gap is, you see, the traditional way of university, you see, formulation of curriculum. You see, university goes in a very traditional way. It takes a long time to change the curriculum, to change the teaching learning pedagogy, to change the lab, you see, requirements for the students, and to change, you see, how skills of media are transmitted to the students. You see, no, as far as knowledge transfer is concerned, it's perfectly okay. The traditional method of transferring knowledge from the teachers to the students is okay. Okay, so I do not have any comment on that, and there is no gap in it also. But the gap exists in the place where the skill is needed. Media, after all, you see, is not only a collection of knowledge, it's a matter of skill also. It's a technical field. You have to perform, you have to produce. You see, you have to broadcast. Okay, you have to actually take all the technical tools in your hands and command them on demand. You see, and so this is a challenge. And to meet this challenge, you see, our curriculum actually doesn't fit. Even the evaluation method also doesn't fit. So we produce journalists, so but we do not produce, you see, the skilled ones. And the industry demands, you see, a person who is finished, who can produce in a professionally competitive market. And that is the challenge, you see. If, and there is no system of internship also. Media houses, somehow or the other, in Nepal have not been able, you see, to develop internship as part of their system. You see, they are adopting the internship as if it were somebody's responsibility. You see, they are taking it from some others. But we are emphasizing that internships should be a part of the whole system of media house. And once you adopt it, you see, that internship would actually be helpful in making the students, you see, able to produce for the media concern. So what happens is the university or the institutions produce media persons with knowledge and skills, and the internship will actually tailor their skills and knowledge to the need of the industry. So here is a gap, and we are trying to answer it. But now, Laxmanji, you have to remember, COVID-19 had changed the ecology. You see, so this is the time. You see, we have to, you see, bring together the industry people and the educationists also, and tell them change the whole scenario right now. It is time for change. It
Well,
is not
Professor
simply a
Regmee, you
matter of
raised two
talking
important
online.
questions. I have a follow-up question to you. What are your suggestions for effective teaching learning, that of the journalism and media here in Nepal, and how can the opportunities arising for internships be institutionalized? Do you think that the academics here in Nepal have institutionalized the process of internship, providing opportunities to students, those who try to be journalists or communicators in future?
I'm glad that you used the word institutionalization of internship. I'm glad that you used that phrase. That is exactly what we want to do. Internships should be a system, you see, a part of the system of the university and also a part of the media house. You see, because it is a training ground, you see, it is a ground which allows the students, you see, to specialize their knowledge. You see, to tailor their knowledge, you see, skills to the need of the industry. That is very important. We have to do that. So, if you ask me, you see, what sort of things we want to do is this: is media education as far as the knowledge is concerned. You see, we should not leave it out, you see. Journalism is for freedom of expression, you see. Journalism is for informed citizenry. Journalism is for, you see, the society, making the society informed. You see, we have to analyze the context. We have to give the meaning to the events. We have to, you see, explain the policies of the government. So journalism demands a lot of knowledge, you see, and that is absolutely essential. We have to maintain that. In addition to that, we have to update our skills, the technological skills, and able to utilize, apply. So apply all those skills, you see, to the expectations of the media house. So what we call corporate media these days, you see, they are trying to go towards the branding phase, you see. So that's their one. But what I think is, you see, it should be a collaboration in it, you see, because we do not want to actually make light of this information flow. Information flow has a mission. You see, we have to check the fake news also. We have to check the facts also. You see, because there is information blizzards are there. You see, there is a storm of information these days. People get a lot of information. They have to actually make a meaning out of that information. So here is a challenge, and that challenge can be actually made if if we develop a system of internship between the university or between the classroom and the production room. Internship will be there, you see. It will like, well, of course, you see, many students will not be able to meet, you see, the requirements of the media. They will come out of the internship. They will not feel, I can tell you that. But those who work hard, you see, those who can actually go, but that system will help. And we have to develop that. And this is the time.
Well,
When COVID
thank you,
19 has
Professor
changed the ecology,
Regmee.
it
I'm
has
going
changed.
with the same question to Dr. Genilo from Dhaka. Dr. Genilo, do you agree that the way journalism is taught at the universities in South Asia is too much traditional, not meeting the market demand? What are your suggestions improving the way journalism is taught in the universities? Plus, how do you see or evaluate the criticism or comments from the media industry in Bangladesh and around?
Okay. There are many thoughts in my mind. So when we did the study with DW Academy and we spoke to the different media houses about it, we asked, who are the people that you employ? Now, the reason why we're doing this is because of the changing education paradigm. Because the new paradigm is saying that universities have to be more market centric, that students invest their time, effort, money in your university because they want to get jobs. And that's why this is where the new paradigm is moving towards. So we did this study, we asked the media houses. So they said we hire 50% from journalism graduates. The other 50%, we take it from the other programs because they would also need experts in business. They would also need experts in international relations. They need experts also in language, Bangla language, English language, which they use as editors. But 50% are journalists. So then we try to ask, okay, what uh, things we need to do. Now, we reviewed our curriculum. And when we reviewed our curriculum, we included there the people from industry. We included there our alumni, students. Of course, the faculty were there in the review. Now, we found out that internship is actually not enough for students to learn all practical learning. Because when we talk about internship, this is the last term of their study, wherein they devote 3 months to work in a media house. Then they get some training. Training also varies from one media house to another because not all media houses are committed to the internship program. But what we did is that aside from internship, what we developed in our university was apprenticeship. So when we talk about apprenticeship, this is when we bring industry people inside our university and set up the structure. And that's why when we have a television station in our university, there are industry people there. So we have ULAB TV, and we have 7 people from industry coaching our students there. We have ULAB radio, and we have also industry people there. So we have these types of apprenticeship program. This has actually been a debate wherein oftentimes people are saying, why don't you let your faculty do the practical training of the students? But what we discovered is that they're very difficult for faculty to do practical training because faculty are trained in a way to be more research oriented, more looking at how to produce good citizens in society and giving the foundation knowledge that is necessary by the students. And that's why for faculty to be learning one program after another that gets obsolete in 6 months' time, that is too much pressure on a faculty. And that's why it's easier to bring people from industry and working with us because they possess the skills and they would tell us this is the latest program that students have to know. So these are some ways that we try to do so that we can complement the co-curricular program, the apprenticeship program, with the internship program, and with what they learn in the classroom. I want to go back to the challenge of the pandemic because it has to be noted that uh, a transition process had to happen from going from on-campus learning to online learning. And this could not be done at the click of a finger. Like COVID happened, and then you go online. So there had to be a history wherein universities had to transition from full classroom learning to blended to uh, full online now. And luckily, some universities like our university, it was started actually 2007. We had our first experience with online learning, but it was in 2013 that we had our first training. 2014, we had our first blended classes. 2015, wherein we officially had an online learning system. And then it's only in 2016 that 90% of our faculty got trained in using online learning methodologies. And that's why it took a while. But when COVID happened, because 90% of our faculty are trained and students are kind of used to this, then the transition was not so difficult. But I could not say the same with other universities that did not have a handle on online learning early on. If they're just trying to transition now, it would be very difficult for them, and you have to give them at least 6 months to be able to move to the transition to full online learning.
Well, thank you, Dr. Genilo. You told us with the alternate or complementary to internships that your university is doing. Let me go with Dr. Preeti Raghunath. Dr. Raghunath, could you tell us how well your students, I mean the students studying at the universities of India, different parts, are received by the media industry? Is there any criticism over how journalism is taught at the university? What are the areas that needs to be improved?
Thank you for that question. Well, I don't think there is any criticism as such in terms of the difference between in what industry wants and what certain media schools are doing. I won't generalize this for the entire country because the range and the kind of media institutions in the country are very, very diverse. One, we have university departments. Two, we have houses running their own institutions. And then we have private institutions, which are good. And then we have the proliferation of various private entities. So in terms of the education industry interface, of course there is definitely a lag. The industry is a few steps ahead because it's at the cutting edge of innovation and things happen on the ground with the industry and working with the industry. Media education takes stock typically after a few after things have happened in the industry, and when we have industry sources and industry representatives coming and teaching us in media houses, that's when we get to know. However, there has been a growing interface between the industry and media institutions, and therefore now we have industry collaborations to be a big thing, and that's something that's already there and established. And therefore, what is important is good industry collaboration per se, and working with companies and working with corporate entities besides journalism houses and media houses per se is not difficult. What is difficult is cultivating the habit of good industry interface, working with good agencies, working with agencies and institutions that contribute to the larger media economy of the country. I think that's a very, very important thing. And that is where institutions are lagging behind. Um, a lot of, I mean, one of the studies conducted by a government department showcased, government department in education showcased that overall our graduates, our university turnouts are unemployable, and that's a huge challenge, right? And that impacts the media industry and the media and communication education space as well. It is very, very important that we turn out and give students to society, students who are not just sensitive to various societal, the perils of societal conditioning, students who are a lot more aware, but also students who are skilled, and therefore it is very, very skilling. It becomes a very, very important thing, and that's where working in tandem with the industry, ensuring that we have compatibility with what the industry does, is very, very important.
Well, thank you, Dr. Raghunath. I'm going with Professor Regmee again. Professor Regmee, uh, what is your observation about the current media market scenario, especially that of the economic downturn? Many media outlets here in Nepal and also some part of India shut down, and journalists are forced to leave their jobs. Don't you think that it is a demotivating factor or environment for future journalists or communicators, Professor Regmee?
A very pertinent question, not encouraging scenario. The virus has affected some, the virus has affected many in different ways. Okay. So although the virus is not there affecting the people, you see, it has affected the society, the economy, the youths, and all these, you see, through the, you see, multiple impact of the lockdown and social distancing. It is actually the social distancing actually is, you see, is not, you see, in terms of the human connection, you see, it affects communication. Okay, so in one hand, you see, the media workers are suffering most. There are two problems, you see, people do not appreciate well. One, the way media is reporting COVID-19 times. I don't want to say only COVID, the virus. You see, the impact of the virus, you see, and the changes that the virus has brought about in the society, how is media coping with reporting all these things? So this is what the society has not been able to appreciate. The government has not been able to appreciate it. They are simply taking it for granted that it is the duty of the media to report it. You see, when lockdown is there, social distancing is there, how are media workers operating in such an atmosphere? You see, so this has not been well appreciated in one hand, and on the other, the media workers are losing their jobs. They are, in one hand, they are saying that, you see, there is hunger, increase of hunger in the society, and there is a loss of jobs also. There is unemployment, they are reporting, and at the same time they are also losing their jobs. You see, so this part also is not in the public discourse. People do not take it very seriously. So the media, you see, the way it is operating, and the media workers in Nepal today suffer a lot in two ways. One, they are being exposed to the virus or exposed to the situation. They do not have safety, you see, net, you see, and they do not have the social safety net also. You see, they have to depend on what they earn from the media house, and the media houses are not able to pay them, you see, to afford to hire them anymore. So some of them are forced to take leave, others are forced not to work, you see, others are not receiving, you see, their remuneration on time. So these are the problems we are facing. So we have to actually take the problem of the media. So we have to emphasize one thing: the information flow should continue. For this, the media houses should operate. And in order to enable the media houses to operate, the journalists in the media houses should not lose the job. Somebody should come over, and you see, those who are media operators, those who are running the media houses, they should combine their forces, you see, and recover from this situation. And tell the advertisers also, you see, to help them in such circumstances. The government also, in its recovery plan, should take media into consideration, media workers into consideration. But unfortunately, in Nepal, the media and the media workers are not in focus.
Well, thank you, Professor Regmee. Dr. Genilo, how are you assessing this environment, especially that of the economic downturn of media? How can your students, media students, be, motivated towards journalistic works?
Well, I take a look at it from a supply and demand perspective. The supply of media workers and then the demand for it. Now, in the supply, when we get our students going into our universities and they want to study journalism, they are actually people who want to serve their country. They do journalism not because it is a very highly profit making career, because it is definitely not. That and the reason why they come to us is because they believe in the truth. They believe that the truth has to be protected at all times. They believe that journalism profession is important for the functioning of a democratic society, and that's why they go into this. They go into this because of their own choice. It's not even the choice of their parents, because many of the parents do not want their children to become journalists here in Bangladesh. They want their children to go into professions like medicine, engineering, business. So these are the choice professions they have for their children. And that's why when you get a journalism student, this is a person who decided for himself or herself that she wants to get into this profession. And that's why they're more motivated than other university students. And that's the reason why you have this kind. So you would have students like this. Now, the question is, now what happens when you graduate? And I agree, we can notice a downturn in the economy. Many journalists are losing jobs, etc. And this is not only happening because of COVID. It has been happening even before that. Why? Well, because now in society, we talk about the post-truth era, wherein the truth is not given so much importance anymore. And because the truth is not given so much importance anymore, then the people who protect the truth are not given so much importance as well. Secondly, there is just too much content over social media. Everybody's just bombarded with content, and they get it for free. The content may be fake, the content may be conspiracy theories and hate speech and all junk. But there is a lot of content, and that's why many people feel, why do we need to pay for content coming from journalists or media houses if we can get all the content, whatever it shape and form, without integrity, it is there for free. And because of that, you could also see the shifting of advertising towards social media, and social media, as they say, is now becoming the gatekeeper in society and no longer the media houses. So you can see a lot of this shift, and it is actually affecting how media houses operate. And that's why there is sort of a gloom scenario, but also in the other way, if this is the situation, there are always opportunities. And that's why when we talk to the media houses, they're asking us to produce graduates with new skill sets. Why? Because they need to get into new formats. They need to get into new platforms. They have to extend their digital footprint. They have to improve on their digital content. And that's why the name of the game would not be the way we saw it before, wherein we have 1 hour programs on television, and we are providing content for an audience anytime, anywhere, any device. And the media houses that can adapt to this will be the ones who will survive, and they'll be the ones who will thrive. And that's why it really requires a change in thinking for media houses to be able to do this. So basically, we still have the supply. Many students are very motivated. They want to do the job. They want to protect the truth. Media houses are having difficulty because of the economic situation, the financial side, the competition. from social media, and also the attacks on the integrity of the news media is also there. When you hear, political leaders like the one you have in the U.S. saying that mainstream media is, not important, it's only giving us fake news, that attacks the integrity of media houses, and that
Well,
makes it difficult for
thank you,
audiences
Dr.
to respond
Genilo.
to it.
There are many issues, but we have limited time. I'm going with
Yeah.
Dr. Raghunath. What is your assessment of the media, economic downturn in India? What is the impact of that downturn into media academics, teaching and learning? Dr. Raghunath.
Right. I see two parts to this question. Yeah, I see two parts to this question. The first is the economy of the media, and the pandemic has been a bad time for the media because research after research and issue after issue of magazines and media journals have focused on how in South Asia, unlike in the rest of the world, the newspaper industry has not seen a slowdown despite the turn to digitization. That's something that we've spoken about over the last few years. But newspapers have taken a big hit during the pandemic times because people have said that the newsprint and touching newspapers can and the surfaces that it touches can spread corona, and the fear associated with it has meant that the supply of newspapers has been very minimal, and the loss of jobs in the media industry have been big. We've been hearing news about um, a number of leading newspapers cutting down jobs, a number of leading media houses cutting down jobs and giving the pink slips to their employees, and that's something that we've had to contend with during the pandemic. And therefore, the economy of the media during the pandemic has not been great. That's number one. Number two, the impact on journalism and media education has been that we've had to take stock of the fact that journalists are frontline workers, and therefore it is very important that we remember this during pandemic times when we impart media education as frontline workers. Besides doing factual, in-depth reporting, how do we train our young minds to become frontline workers to take on the challenge of dealing with a situation like COVID as a frontline worker, as a journalist? How do we do that? That's something that we have to teach as part of media education, and this is something that we are learning as we go along day by day. And therefore, the impact on media education of the pandemic has been great in that sense.
Well, thank you, Dr. Raghunath. But I have a follow-up and final question to Dr. Raghunath. Then I'll go with Dr. Genilo, and Professor Regmee will sum up our discussion today. Dr. Raghunath, what are your key recommendations to the universities and academic locations offering journalism and media courses to make their learnings up to the market? Very quickly.
Right. I think what we are doing is, in India at least, the industry interface is pretty good. And therefore, it is important to strengthen the connection that is already there with the industry, ensure that skills are being imparted that can be used in the industry. The skilling of education, media education programs is a constant endeavor, and that has to happen. But I think what we're also seeing very clearly is the research turn in communication departments. We are seeing that because of UGC mandates, the University Grants Commission and its mandates, because of various research-based rankings, we are seeing now that media education departments are beginning to realize that they need to focus on research output as well. And therefore, I would suggest that while industry interface is extremely important and we have to stay current and up to date with the industry interface, it is equally important to stay up to date with research. And in order to be a world class institution, it is very important that you stay abreast with research that's happening across the world and in South Asia, in order for university departments and media institutions, private media institutions as well, to become holistic spaces of communication education. I think that is very important.
Well, thank you. Dr. Hinelo, very quickly, your key
Well, I
recommendations.
think, yeah. Well, like for me, there is a symbiotic relationship between universities and industry. Actually, we need each other. And when we are seeing the trend wherein industry, the media industry is in a difficult situation, universities should extend their hand to be able to help them. Because we could not allow that that the industry integrity will be attacked, or that the truth will not be given importance. And that's why we in the university, we have to do outreach programs to keep reminding people, increasing their news literacy. Why is news so important? Why is news so important to your daily life, to your freedoms, to your democracy? We have to pound on this as academics, and help the industry, because it is actually a symbiotic relationship. So I'll
Well,
end there.
thank you, Dr. Hinelo. Professor Regmee, very quickly, your recommendations on this issue.
Okay, my recommendation is, you see, we have to remember, we have to empower the people through right information in right time, checking the fake news. You see, we have to remember, we are the content producers. The content, you see, that can help citizens to take decisions. The content, you see, that they can rely on for a long time. You see, so we have to guard the democratic values also. We can't actually sacrifice those values. And we have to respond to the day-to-day market demand also. So if we could actually respond to these three, the values in one hand, you see, the content production, meaningful content production, reliable content production on the other, and then be responsive to the market demand, we can actually make the media education meaningful for the society in post-pandemic times.
Well, thank you, Professor Regmee. I would like to thank all of you, Professor Regmee, Dr. Inilo, Dr. Raghunath. Thank you very much for joining us. Would like to thank you and the audience. Time now to wrap up the show. See you next week. Namaste.